I'm done trying to live up to others' expectations. Family, society, class, race, sex, or religions. It's time to break free from the isms that make us feel like we're in prison. I'm ready to be unleashed as fuck. I'm ready to be unleashed as fuck. Tired of the madness, done with the sadness. Gonna break free and be unleashed.
Hey, so welcome to another episode of Unleashed AF, the podcast where we help you to get unleashed from the things that are keeping you stuck in your life. Show your authentic self. I am Deidre Beecham, visibility catalyst and recovering nice girl. We can talk about that another time. But alongside me is the incomparable Jenny Baddick. So for those of you who are new here, I am Deidre and I work with high achieving women, help them obliterate their nice girl training. And it doesn't mean that I make them mean. Oh my gosh. It's just a matter of stepping up. I had somebody ask me that, like, well, what's wrong with being nice? Like, there's nothing wrong with the idea. It's the fact that most of the time nice means anyway. Okay, we're just getting way off track. So let me move it on. Let's just say it's all about kindness with some guard.
Boundaries.
Boundaries, man. Boundaries.
Yeah.
So, Jenny, tell people a little bit about you.
Well, I am the inner space engineer, and with my background in human factors engineering and hypnotherapy, I love to help people engineer their inner space. The final frontier.
Frontier. I love that. Well, I'm so glad that you are here today. You, Jenny, and also our guests. So we don't have a guest on here. I mean, people listening. What is wrong with me today? All right, let's get back on track. So I'm really excited. We are talking about the Paralympics. Now, they are still going on 2 more days, correct? I think they are on
the 8th. Yeah.
But they began in August, at the end of August.
Yep.
And I personally have not watched any. I've been a little busy this week, but my wonderful co-host did do some research and spent some time. And so she had a little bit more information, and I went and looked as well. And these stories that she has picked out for us, I mean, they are just, it's amazing. It's one thing to get into the Olympics as an able-bodied person. The amount of time, effort, dedication that it takes to get into the Olympics. But then to get into the Olympics and you have an injury, and then you're thinking, you know what? I think I'd like to compete on not just a local event. I'd like to compete on the world stage and represent America. How do you even make those leaps?
Yeah. Isn't it amazing?
If you have some sort of disability. It's
truly inspirational to me. And that's why I really did want to do an episode on this, because Paralympics, I think, are gaining more and more popularity, or like more people are more aware of them socially. There were a lot of the Olympic athletes this year that were, like putting on their social media, don't forget to watch the Paralympics. These guys are inspirational. So I think that's great. And I'm pretty sure
really are.
As I was looking around at different information just to get like some statistics and stuff for today, pretty sure that this is the largest Paralympics that has happened so far in terms of number of athletes. There's over 4,400 athletes at this Paralympic Games in Paris, and 225 of those are from the U.S. So
I was even looking at how many medals are being won. I mean, I think China has over 180 medals.
Yeah.
USA is in 3rd place, and we're like less than half that. I mean, it's really crazy how many people are competing, and it's very exciting to see.
Yeah, I agree. And apparently China has been the medal leader in the Paralympics for many, what are
Oh,
they?
really?
Not triads, but whatever the 4 year thing loop is.
Hmm.
Um, Olympiads, I guess, or whatever they call it. Anyway, so China has been ahead in that for quite a while, but because it's getting more popular and they're getting more athletes that are competing, it's going to expand, and obviously more countries, including the US, are going to start to move up in the medal count. Another thing that I was really intrigued by and impressed with several of the different athletes that I was looking into is there are a lot more instances in the Paralympics of athletes that will compete not just in one event, or not even just within track and field. I know regular Olympians, um, or able-bodied Olympians, I guess I should say, sometimes will compete in multiple track events, like the 200 and the 400, or the 100 and 200, or
Right, right.
something like that.
But they're not necessarily throwing shot and running or
Right. They're never doing that unless
doing
they're
some floor
unless
exercise.
they're what is the thing that Bruce Jenner won back in the day? Like for women, it's a heptathlon, the decathlon. So those
Mhm.
athletes, it's because it's part of their event, will do all those different things.
Right.
But there's a really significant number of para athletes who have switched and competed in completely different sports in different Olympic games. So,
Well,
like,
even with one of the examples that you had chosen, and I want to give a lot of kudos to you, Jenny, for doing the research on this, and I really appreciate that.
oh, it was my pleasure.
And one of the people that you had found was, let's see, it was Brianna. No, wrong one.
Hmm. Yeah, Brianna switched.
Tracy Otto, right?
I don't think we're going to talk about her right now. Let's do Brianna. Yeah, she switched from Taekwondo
Yeah, that's
to
the one.
track.
Sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
Brianna Solonero. Let's see. I have her picture here. Let me pull her up real quick. So here she is in the Olympics this year, I believe. I'm hoping. I tried to get a recent picture.
Yeah,
There's-
it looks right.
We're competing.
Yep.
And that's this year in the Paralympics. But she also represented the United States in the 2020 Paralympics. But here's that picture. She represented
Taekwondo.
in
Yep.
Taekwondo. How cool is that? I mean, they're completely different sports.
Yeah.
Completely different sports.
And I'm sure if you would talk to any like able-bodied Olympian about the concept of, training to compete at that level, I mean, most of them train their whole lives to be able to do that, like once in whatever the one thing they've been training in. To think about trying to start over again and get good enough to qualify and then compete at the Olympic level in a different sport, completely different sport, I'm sure it would blow most of their minds. So, that alone to me is inspirational about these athletes.
Okay, I just read a little something. This is interesting because I thought that she had just made a decision to switch to a different sport, but it turns out that World Taekwondo changed which classification would be included in the Paris Olympics. And they opted for athletes with upper limb impairments. But Solinero has cerebral palsy, or
Right.
cerebral palsy, sorry, and was left without a sport, basically, without being able to compete in the Olympics. So instead of going, oh, well, my sport, I can't compete in my sport, she went and trained for a completely different sport.
Yeah. And I mean, already having competed in an Olympics is something that the vast majority of people will never be able to say that they could do. And she could check that box, but that wasn't good enough. She still wanted to push herself even harder so that she could compete again. I mean,
Wow.
it's inspirational. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's I just I have trouble sometimes just doing my exercises during the week. I mean,
You and me
they're
both.
sitting there going, "I can't miss a day," and I'm like, "Gosh, I've missed 3 weeks. So I really should probably get back to that." I mean, I just the amount of dedication is just truly, truly inspiring.
Yeah. And
Um,
and I was excited, as you know, that I went to the pool twice this week to work out.
Good for
Woohoo!
you. I mean, that's just fantastic. That's fantastic.
It
But,
is compared to what these people are doing, and I got all my limbs and all my like I have
right?
no paralysis or anything, and I still only made it to the pool twice. But so, it's just that's I think a really cool thing about watching the Paralympics. There's also been much more coverage of it this time.
Mhm,
They don't get obviously as much coverage as the regular Olympics did in terms of prime time, regular like cable TV. But there was some coverage that was live. I didn't manage to catch any of the live stuff that was on NBC.
mhm.
But Peacock, if anybody watching is a subscriber to Peacock, they have a whole slew of the videos there, and there's also live performances, obviously, just like they did with the regular Olympics, that you can watch on Peacock as it goes.
Mhm.
As we said,
Yeah, and there's still 2
it'll
more
be over.
days, so
Yeah, yep. There's still medals happening, medals being given out, and the idea part of what we talk about in this podcast is things that people have to overcome, kind of unleash themselves from. And if you can think about just a lot of the judgment or assumptions that people make when they see someone who's either in a wheelchair
my
or,
goodness, yeah.
you know, walking apparatus or whatever to help them get around, just the biases that exist for them. I mean, that's one of the first hurdles they probably have to overcome. Well, being able to figure out how to move around without the use of whatever it is that their um, injury, or sometimes it's things that people were born with. Sometimes they were completely able-bodied and then got injured, and that's what kind of moved them into Paralympic status.
Mhm.
Which actually kind of leads us into another person that we wanted to talk about, Tracy Otto.
Yeah, Tracy
The
Otto,
reason she's in
okay.
the Paralympics is because she survived a life-threatening attack from her ex-boyfriend, and it was
Yeah, and
horrific.
it wasn't just her, it was her and her current boyfriend. The
Mhm.
ex-boyfriend came over to their house, and, I didn't read all the gruesome details. I just know it was horrific. I know he
Yeah.
shot her in the face.
Mhm. Shot
She's
both of them in the
blind,
face.
but she's blind in one eye, correct?
Yep. She lost the use of her left
Lost
eye.
use. Mhm. And, um, severed her spine.
Yeah, she's paralyzed from the
Um,
chest down.
yeah, it's absolutely unbelievable, especially if you think about all of that. Okay, so completely able-bodied people have a difficult time overcoming a trauma, but now she's overcoming a trauma where she's also had her body attacked and damaged.
Mhm.
Some people would say crippled in a way.
Mhm.
And yet she came back and qualified for archery, which people normally need 2 eyes for. Or you would
Mhm.
think, hey, probably 1 eye is a little bit more difficult than 2 eyes.
Correct.
And she's out there doing archery. Let me just put a
And you
picture
would
up.
think you would need use of, like, your limbs for archery typically, and
There we go. And that's
it's
her
amazing.
now. Now, are they married now? I'm not sure, but that's her partner.
They got engaged in Paris. So, at
Oh,
the
that's
Eiffel
right. That's
Tower.
right.
Yeah, kudos to
Look
them.
at
They got
her.
engaged, which, I mean, to live through that kind of attack together, I mean, if you make it through
And
that,
then to hang in there together after all that,
mhm, the
unbelievable. The
rest of life
strength
is
of both of
like
them,
cake. Yeah.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
But it's crazy the fortitude to come back from that. And then she's like, you know what? I'm going to go to the Olympics. What?
Yeah.
What? Just 5 years ago. It just happened 5 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that she's even recovered to this extent is amazing in 5 years.
That's kind of one of the things we were talking about before the show was just the unbelievable resilience of, I mean, we were talking about women. I mean, human beings have unbelievable resilience, but women, it's completely different. And I think there's so much, if you go back and look at generational trauma, most women have generational trauma because we're women. And for generations upon generations, women have been less than, lower class property at one point in our lives, not able to own our own property, not having rights. And it builds a resilience in women that is just unrivaled and completely untapped. And I think if any woman that can get to the point, and these women are perfect examples, that they're perfect examples of women reaching deep inside and saying, I don't care what any of you guys think. I know what I'm capable of.
Yep.
I know what I have the ability to do, or at least I'm going to have a dream and I'm going to go after and make it happen. And that is so inspiring.
Yeah. And I would venture to guess, like, I don't have any proof of this, but I would imagine a lot of them have gone well beyond even what their doctors thought was possible for them to do. Right? I mean, can you imagine when she first came into the hospital after that attack? They were probably not even sure she was going to make it, period. But even as she started to recover, I'm sure none of them would have had any kind of inkling that this kind of life that she's living now, a Paralympian, would even be possible after everything, that all the injuries she'd suffered and stuff like that. And then to even top that off, she also announced during the Olympics that she's pregnant.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Well, like, she just found out at the Olympics, correct? She just found out at the Olympics.
Yeah. Amazing. So, I mean, that's physical resilience. It's obviously mental and emotional resilience. There's just, like, her middle name should be Resilience. It's amazing.
And I love the stories that you picked out because, on the first story she had switched from one sport to another sport, from one Olympics to another Olympics. Then we have Otto, who wasn't disabled, and then 5 years after becoming disabled goes into the Olympics. And we have another story, and this is Tatiana McFadden. And Tatiana McFadden was born with spina bifida. But look at this woman.
She has more Paralympic medals than anyone, I believe. And she has competed. This is her 7th Paralympics, which might make it seem like she'd be pretty old because 7 times 4 is 28. But she actually has competed in both summer and winter Paralympics.
No kidding. Now, I did not know that.
Yep. So talk about, like, somebody just going from one sport, one Olympics, to another sport, a different Olympics.
To go from a winter sport to a summer sport and back again. That's amazing.
Yeah. It is incredible. I mean, I think, honestly, something like that probably, there's a few sports where that could possibly be attempted, like, by able-bodied Olympians, because things like the bobsled or some of those winter sports where you kind of just need to be able to, like, run and push the sled really fast and then hop in.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. And then you could do a running sport in the Summer Olympics.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense.
But I've not seen hardly anybody, if anyone, who's done it. I've seen that there have been athletes from different sports that started doing something like that instead. Like once they're done with their professional sport or whatever, they might get into that as an Olympic sport. But I haven't seen someone who's actually able-bodied that has competed in both the summer and the winter Olympics. So that is pretty incredible to me too.
And again, we're not saying that hasn't happened. We just don't know of it. And it just seems like
I've
there's a lot
not
of
heard
overlap.
any stories about that. And I do follow Olympics quite a bit. So, but the other thing that was really cool, I thought, about Tatiana's story is she was born in Russia.
Mhm.
And because of her, I guess they would consider it a birth defect, spina bifida, she was put into an orphanage over there, which is what I believe a lot of kids who have
She
any kind of
spent
birth
her
defect
first
end up
6
doing.
years of her life in an orphanage.
Yep.
And she learned to walk on her hands to try and keep up with the other children.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And then, part of her story obviously is her resilience and her drive and her push to become as good as she is. But she also kind of lucked out with the woman who adopted her from the US and brought her over here.
I just read that she's the Commissioner of Disabilities for the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and came upon her when she visited an orphanage during a routine business trip. Just a routine business trip, and ends up running across Tatiana.
Yeah. And so the mother had actually already been involved back like a year or two after Tatiana was born, so she wouldn't have known her yet, with helping to create the Americans with Disabilities Act. So she was already in that space, like aware of it, a proponent of trying to help people get sort of equal access to things and make it a fair shot for them to be successful in life. And for her to then decide to adopt us, make it more of a personal thing, not just sort of her career ambitions, but turning it into a personal thing. Her and her wife, by the way, are the ones that adopted Tatiana and brought her over.
Wow.
And Tatiana
and evidently they just did it initially to help her with her strength. And there was no grand goal for her to become an Olympian. I mean, they were like, hey, let's get her involved in some sports. Let's get her involved in these programs in order to build her strength and her confidence.
Mm-hmm. And she was disappointed because she kept getting denied. The schools wouldn't let her on the teams. So there's actually legislation in Maryland that she inspired to give disabled athletes equal access to sports. So, she's gone beyond even, which I'm sure is part of the influence of her mom, since her mom knew about, getting on the side of making equal access something that everybody can have. But she kind of got that passion ingrained in her as well. So there's a few different things that I think she and her mom now have done as she's evolved into her career as a para athlete and things like that. So most of her stuff has been track and field type of events. So like wheelchair sprints and stuff like that. And I believe it was some kind of, instead of a wheelchair in the Winter Olympics, it's like instead of the wheels, it's little sled rails or whatever. So it's something, I don't know if it's called skiing or bobsledding. I don't know what it's called. I can't remember, but
I think I've seen
somewhat
that.
Similar.
Yeah. I think I've seen that before.
Yeah,
evidently,
but still, it's a different thing. It's certainly different to use to be on the snow versus being on a track. Anybody that's ever like roller skated and ice skated knows it's not the same thing.
Yeah, I'm not so good. Well, I'm not so good at either one of those things, but definitely worse at the ice skating than I am at roller skating. At least although rollerblading is pretty darn similar, but anyway, they're very different. They're very different. Yeah, and evidently she had won 20 Paralympic medals prior to this Olympics, and I know she's already won medals in this Olympics.
Yeah. Last I checked, she had won at least one in this Olympics, and they're still going on. So I don't know exactly at this moment where she is on that. But yeah, so um, extremely impressive what she's been able to do with her athletic career. And then even beyond that, in helping others to basically be able to do the same. And part of her inspiration, I know when she was younger, to make that kind of a goal to help others too, is her sister. And I wasn't clear on if it was her biological sister that they had also adopted, or if they had happened to adopt another girl that also had some kind of disability. I can't remember exactly which way that went, but she had a younger sister who she's like, if I don't do something about this, she's not going to be able to compete in sports either. And neither is anybody else like her or me. So that was some of her motivation to like, it doesn't just stop with me. We've got to make this something that helps everybody. So just,
That
the
to
idea
me,
of,
that's
go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's so amazing to me when somebody goes through a difficulty, either from, again, being born into that difficulty or having an event happen where you become disabled.
Mm-hmm.
To get the fortitude to say, okay, you know what? I'm not only going to do this for myself, I'm going to help other people just like me.
Yeah.
It just takes so much resilience, and there's a heart there
Mm-hmm.
that wow, it's just so incredibly impressive.
Yeah.
So incredibly impressive.
Yeah.
'Cause we all know how disabled people are treated in the world. Well, even I was reading, since we were doing this podcast today, I did some reading, and evidently Paris made a ton of changes in order to make the city more accessible
Oh,
for
nice.
the people that were coming for the Paralympics.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's a lot of talk right now about how wonderful it is, and there are people that are there saying how wonderful it is that they have access that they've never had to their own city.
Oh,
And the concern is that once the Paralympics are gone, that the Olympics are gone from the venue, will the city keep those things in place, or will they remove them? So it'll be interesting to see.
yeah.
But it is wonderful to see the awareness grow, and if that's something if that's an additional side benefit for hosting the Paralympics and the Olympics in your town, in your city,
Mm-hmm.
how cool is that that's something that becomes a side benefit of hosting the
Right.
Olympics, that it becomes a more accessible city for people who already live there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did also hear, in addition to there being more coverage of the Paralympics this year than there has been in the past,
Mhm.
I believe the number of tickets sold was like over 2 million or something like that. I mean, like huge numbers that they haven't really seen in the past either, of people going there to watch in person. So it's just really exciting that these athletes that have, overcome so much and have such inspirational stories are starting to get more recognized for that.
Mhm.
And that's even one of those things we've talked on some of the other episodes about how sometimes you can just feel like there's a shift, like in the energy of the the culture or the society or the country or
Mhm.
whatever. And that's one of those things that I feel is one of those positive shifts. If there's more people that are drawn to not only accept these people with disabilities, but see them differently, like not necessarily see them
Yeah.
as disabled, but look at the inspiration behind what they've overcome and be drawn to that and want to spend money to go, watch it or whatever, like helps the economy, obviously, when that happens. But
Yeah,
it's
it's
just,
interesting. I saw a news special. I'm sorry, I cut you off. I saw a news special, and I don't know who was doing it. ABC. It was one of the main
mhm,
channels. It may have been Peacock because they're doing the Olympics,
mhm,
and they were interviewing um, some disabled people and talking to them about the Olympics and also what it's like to be disabled, and kind of some of the things we're talking about, that there is a difference, that more people are watching, there's more tickets, there's more representation. And they're asking, they're like, well, all these changes have happened. Of course, those are good. How are you feeling about it? When will you know that we've gotten to a place where there's less ableism? And this one guy, he was in a wheelchair. I don't know what his disability was, but he said, what I would love to see is that there's a show that comes out and the main character is a disabled person, and it's not a big deal. It's just that's the actor for the role.
Yep.
That's when we'll know. And I was like, that's really true there, because we do get a lot of that. That's a lot of our social instruction, about how to act socially and how to behave socially. A lot of that comes from programming. Good or not, that's what happens. And it was interesting that he had kind of keyed into that and thought about that. And anyway, it was interesting. We do have a way to go.
Yeah. And I think that's something that we've seen with other either minority groups or marginalized groups. I mean, if you think about the number of like African American actors that would be seen in either TV shows or movies way back, there was not very many, and they played a very limited type of role. But as that continued to evolve, and you got shows where it was like, oh yeah, that's just the friend. They happen to be Black, but that's just the main character's friend, or vice versa, whatever. That I think helped us make huge strides. Same thing with the LGBTQ community. I mean, Ellen obviously was a huge step in that direction when she had her sitcom and came out on the sitcom.
I'll tell you, the biggest thing for me with that was Modern Family. I mean, yes, there were a lot of people that were important for Modern Family to even come out. Yeah, but Modern Family did so much more. For me, in my memory, it was the first time that gay people were represented, or LGBT people were represented in a mainstream show where they weren't being made fun of. They weren't the brunt of the joke.
Right. Or at least, I mean, it's a comedy, so they're all making fun of each other in that show, but they weren't, right. They weren't the brunt of the joke. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I understand. It makes a big difference, and it definitely takes some strides. And we have a guest next week that she is disabled as well. I'm so excited to have her with us. I think this is perfect, a leading from Paralympics, talking about the Paralympics, and having our guest on. Her name is Jen Cleveland, and you have invited her. I've met Jen once before, but I believe you know her.
Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit about our guest that we're having in next week.
Yeah, Jen Cleveland is pretty amazing. She's got a great story too, and she's one who was not disabled from birth. So she was sighted for much of her life until, I can't remember exactly how long ago it was now, less than 20 years. She began to lose her sight. And so she is at this point, and has been for a while now, legally blind. But she has managed to really, I know she went through some tough adjustment times as that was happening. And part of that was losing friends, losing people that she thought, were close and good friends and things like that. And they just didn't stick around. But she managed to overcome that, figure out her new kind of center or whatever, and move forward, creating a whole new life for herself. And she's very active, not only in like blind advocacy groups. She's involved in like public transportation to make sure that things like that are set up well for people who are disabled. And she has her own businesses. Like, she's done great for herself. Since that
I'm
whole
really
thing
looking
happened.
forward to talking with her and asking her some of the questions that I would love to ask some of these athletes. And I'm sure she'd give us a lot of insight into just the determination that it takes and the types of obstacles that she's overcome.
Absolutely.
We did have a comment. I didn't realize we could do this. So, and now we're a little behind the times, but we have Will and Grace was another great show helping out
Yes,
the LGBT
absolutely.
plus community. So I want to
Yeah.
make sure I put that up. It's so wonderful that we have people watching. So thank you so much.
Mhm.
And so we're going to have Jen Cleveland on next. Is it Jen or Jennifer? Do you know what she prefers?
I usually call her Jen because we're in like the Jen club together, but a lot of times, like professionally, I think she goes by Jennifer. But we'll
Okay. Well,
see
we're going
how
to have
she.
Jennifer Cleveland in
Yeah.
next week. Really looking forward to that. And as always, we love hearing from you. Please do not hesitate to drop your thoughts, questions, comments, and on our website. If you go to our website at unleashedafpodcast.com.
Ooh, can
And
we
there's
do
a
our
section.
affiliate thing today?
Oh, yep. Hold on. Hang on just a second. Let's run that real quick. Thank you so much for reminding me. Where are we? Brand.
I
We'd
got
like
it.
to mention our affiliate sponsor, Osreen Natural Skincare, a woman-owned business that offers a variety of skincare products that are 100% natural, cruelty-free, and handmade using essential oils and herbal extracts. I've been using Osreen's Earthly Healer Lotion and noticed a wound healing significantly quicker than it had been without it. You can now get 10% off any of her products by going to osreenskincare.com/unleashedafpod. That's Osreen spelled AUSRINE skincare.com. Select your products and use Unleashed AF Pod as your discount code when you check out for 10% off.
Awesome. Thank you
There
so
we
much.
go.
So check out Osreen. If you've enjoyed today's podcast, please tell your friends. And if you have a topic that you'd like for us to discuss or any comments or questions for us, please go to our website at unleashedafpodcast.com. Go to the section WWJDD. What would Jenny and Deidre do? And we'll take care of you. Or if you have a suggestion for somebody that you'd like to have on the show, let us know. Or if you would like to be on the show, you can go ahead and fill out an application on our website as well.
That's right.
And again, next week we're going to have Jen. We really look forward to having you back. You have anything else you want to add this week, Jen?
Well, I did want to just mention, something else as I was doing the like research and looking into the Paralympics more. Like watching it is one thing, but really kind of digging in to find out more about how it works and everything. It's a complicated thing. And that may be why a lot of them end up kind of changing or looking for different sports they can get into. Like you mentioned, the one sport they decided they weren't going to allow people with her disability to compete in that sport anymore. So there's that's part of what's confusing about it, I think, for people. Within each type of discipline, there's different categories, I think they call them. And that category has to do with the type of disability.
Yeah, I would imagine that's one of the things that makes it so much more complicated. Like they were saying, well, are we going to focus on upper body? Or are we going to disabilities? Or are we going to focus on lower body disabilities? I wish they didn't have to choose, but
right.
There's only so many they can do.
Yeah, but it's quite detailed to try to figure out what the different categories are, and it's different in each sport, which categories apply. But overall, this was something I didn't even realize until I looked into it. But there are like 3 main categories of disabilities that are included in the Paralympics. There's physical disabilities, visual disabilities, and intellectual disabilities. So physical, physical obviously is things like amputations and other limb impairments. The visual, they're blind people that compete in the Olympics. And if you've never seen the track and field with the blind track and field runners,
that's amazing.
It is. Isn't that cool?
I mean, the person that's helping them has to be incredibly talented on top of that.
Yeah.
And then assisting them getting around the track. Yeah, it's really amazing.
Yeah. That's a special kind of bond right there. I mean, probably similar. And Jen can talk about next week. I would imagine she'll talk about the guide dog process that she's gone through twice now. Because there's obviously a special bond that has to happen there as you're entrusting, like you're not just going to run without having somebody that's leading you, and you're not going to walk around if you're blind without something to lead you. And so there's just a huge special relationship there. And I think I have seen stories in the past of those, like what do they call them? Guides or assistants or something like that, runners. And just, it's like they become family, which is great. That's another really cool aspect of the Paralympics. But even the intellectual impairments, that was something that I thought was interesting.
And I did not know that happened. I did not realize that there were also mental impairment category.
Yeah. Because there were some, I watched a little bit of the track, like the sprints in track. And I thought, well, these people don't they have all their limbs. I'm not sure what is this, like a replay of the regular Olympics, but I don't see Noah Lyles there. And those were more of the intellectual disabilities that were in that race. So yeah, there's just very different aspects of it. And, so it makes it interesting to watch, but kind of hard to follow if you don't realize that there are those different categories. Right. So I encourage people, to, like I said, there's still a couple days left of the Olympics, the Paralympics. And I don't know how long the videos stay on Peacock after they're done, but I would assume for a little while anyway, to go back and watch some of those and just get inspired by some of these athlete stories. I mean, we talk on these episodes about not only just stories of people who have overcome things, but how can you find a way to break out of whatever's, leashing you or holding you back. And honestly, sometimes just seeing what other people have accomplished can kind of pull you out of what feels like a dark, kind of impossible situation. You go, well, hell, I mean, at least I still have, all my faculties and everything. And if they can do it, come on, why can't I find a way to do it?
There's no excuse.
And not putting down anybody that's in a tough place right now. But it just, that sometimes can be the thing that helps spark your confidence or your drive, or just help kind of kick you out of the rut. So hopefully in bringing to light some of these stories today, will help people to kind of find the light at the end of their tunnel and find ways to do whatever it is that they're looking to do. Not that everybody has to go be an Olympian of one sort of or another, but it's find your success, find what's going to make you happy, and find a way to keep that inspiration up and achieve your goals.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jenny. I really appreciate your time and looking some of these athletes up for us this week. And really looking forward to spending time with Jennifer Cleveland next week. So we look forward to having you, and look forward to having you back next week. Please tell your friends. And I need to get over to here.
Like, subscribe, follow.
Like, subscribe, follow. Love us. We love you. Okay. All right. Take care.
I'm done trying to live up to others' expectations. Family, society, class, race, sex, or religions. It's time to break free from the isms that make us feel like we're in prison. I'm ready to be unleashed.